In the distant future, humanity had finally earned its place among the stars, building vast colonies and trade networks that stretched across hundreds of systems. They had learned from centuries of war that peace was stronger than pride, and the Terran Federation became known not for conquest, but for diplomacy and cooperation. Yet beyond their borders lay the Vorn Dominion, a powerful and ancient empire that ruled through fear and control. The Vorn saw humanity's ideals as weakness, mocking their kindness and patience, even as trade between the two powers grew fragile and tense. To prevent another galactic war, the Terran Council sent Ambassador Elise Varin, one of Earth's most respected diplomats, to negotiate a peace treaty that could unite both civilizations. When she arrived on the Vorn homeworld, she carried no weapon, only a treaty, and the hope of ending the long shadow of hostility. The Vorn capital shimmered with golden towers and violet skies, but beneath its beauty, arrogance thrived. The Vorn High Council welcomed her with smiles that hid contempt, believing humans to be naive dreamers who didn't understand strength. For days, Elise spoke with reason and calm, explaining how both sides could gain more through friendship than war. She offered trade routes, cultural exchanges, and technology sharing that could benefit millions. Yet every word she spoke seemed to amuse the Vorn more than convince them. The High Speaker, a tall figure with cold eyes, often interrupted her, saying, "Peace is for those too weak to rule." Still, Elise did not give up. She had faith that logic and patience would win. But on the final day, when she presented the official treaty, the Council's laughter filled the hall. The High Speaker stood and said, "You come here unarmed, human, offering mercy you cannot afford. The Dominion does not share power." Before Elise could reply, the guards surrounded her. She realized then that the meeting had never been about peace. It had been a test of humiliation. Her ship was ordered to leave orbit, and as it did, all contact was suddenly lost. The Vorn later claimed it was an accident, that her shuttle had suffered a navigation error. But humanity knew better. Across the Terran colonies, the news spread like a storm. The peace envoy was gone. For the first time in decades, Earth's skies fell silent. The Terran Council gathered in the great chamber of Geneva Station, their faces grim. Ambassador Varin had represented everything humanity stood for: understanding, courage, and unity, and her disappearance was not just a loss, but an insult to all human worlds. Many demanded war, but others called for restraint. Then Admiral Danner, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet, rose and said in a quiet voice that carried more power than any shout, "They rejected peace. Now they will learn what peace truly costs." The room fell silent, and everyone knew humanity's patience had ended. Within days, Operation Dawnlight was launched, not a war but a response. The Terran fleets moved across space in absolute silence, surrounding Vorn-controlled systems, blocking their trade lanes, cutting their communications, and freezing their supply routes without firing a single shot. It was a war fought with precision and purpose, not destruction. The galaxy watched in disbelief as the mighty Vorn Dominion began to crumble from within. Their people questioned their leaders, asking why an empire so proud suddenly stood powerless before humanity's quiet strength. The Vorn tried to retaliate, but every attempt failed. Human technology had evolved far beyond their expectations. They couldn't see the human fleets, couldn't track their signals, couldn't even predict their next move. It was as if humanity had turned invisible, striking only through silence. The message was clear. Humanity did not seek revenge. They sought balance. And as the Vorn struggled to regain control, a single human fleet, led by Admiral Danner himself, moved toward the Vorn capital. He sent a transmission to every world, his voice calm and unwavering. "We came with peace, and you chose pride. Now we will remind you that strength is not measured by power, but by purpose." The transmission spread across the galaxy, replayed by every network, echoed by every race. The humans had not fired a weapon, but the galaxy trembled at their words. The Vorn Dominion began to fracture as its allies turned away, unwilling to stand beside those who betrayed peace. And on the edge of the Vorn home system, as the stars burned bright over the silent fleet, the final stage of Operation Dawnlight began. The humans would not destroy the Vorn. They would make them see what they had done. The galaxy held its breath, watching as humanity prepared to give its most powerful reply. Not through violence, but through truth that could not be silenced. The Vorn Dominion stood on the edge of collapse, their once proud fleets scattered and their colonies trembling under the invisible hand of human precision. No shot had been fired, yet every system they controlled was now under Terran blockade. Trade routes had gone dark, communications were silenced, and the great Vorn markets, symbols of their arrogance, stood empty and cold. Within the marble towers of the Vorn capital, panic spread like wildfire. The High Speaker, who had once mocked humanity's ideals, now faced the truth. His empire was crumbling without a single human weapon being unleashed. The Terran fleets waited in silence, encircling the homeworld like a shadow of judgment. Admiral Danner's final transmission had echoed through every channel, every world, and every heart. "We offered peace, and you chose pride. Now learn what pride costs." It wasn't a threat. It was a sentence. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy saw power that came not from destruction, but from discipline. Humanity had mastered restraint, and that made them terrifying. Inside the Vorn Council chamber, the remaining leaders argued in panic, demanding retaliation, but their weapons were useless. Every attempt to mobilize a fleet was intercepted. Every coded signal was blocked before it left orbit. The Dominion's proud armies were blind, deaf, and paralyzed. Across the stars, other species watched in awe. The humans had become a force not of war, but of inevitability. One by one, systems under Vorn control began to surrender, not out of fear, but because humanity offered them a choice. "Lay down your arms," the human message said, "and you will have peace. Stand against us, and your silence will last forever." And as the Dominion weakened, a transmission appeared across the Terran flagship's main display. It was from a small civilian shuttle escaping the Vorn capital. The signal was weak, but when the image resolved, Admiral Danner froze. It was Ambassador Elise Varin, alive though wounded, her eyes fierce despite exhaustion. She had escaped captivity with the help of sympathetic Vorn, who had seen through their Empire's lies. Her first words were simple, yet powerful. "Admiral, stop this. We have already won." Danner stood silently for a long time, staring at the woman who had risked everything for peace. Around him, the officers waited for orders, knowing one command could erase the Vorn from history. But Danner understood that true victory was not about destroying an enemy. It was about proving what humanity truly was. He ordered the fleets to stand down, leaving only a single broadcast frequency open to the Vorn Dominion. "You took one of ours," Danner said calmly, his voice echoing across the galaxy. "But we return yours. Your empire is broken, but your people will live. Learn from this, or history will remember you as those who taught humanity what peace truly means." And then, in an act that shocked every race, the Terran fleets turned and left. No bombardment, no invasion, just silence. The Vorn homeworld was left untouched, but its pride lay in ruins. Across the galaxy, the message spread: humanity's strength came not from power, but from purpose. Other civilizations began to rethink their politics, their wars, their arrogance. The legend of Operation Dawnlight became a lesson told for generations, that humanity could be merciful even when wronged, and that mercy could be more terrifying than vengeance. Weeks later, as the Terran fleets returned home, Ambassador Varin addressed the United Galactic Council. Her voice was steady as she said, "Peace cannot be forced, but it can be earned. And sometimes, the loudest answer is given by silence." The galaxy applauded, and for the first time, even the Vorn sent an envoy to Earth, one carrying a message of apology and an offer to rebuild what they had broken. Humanity accepted not as conquerors, but as teachers. The stars, once filled with fear, now carried whispers of respect for the race that had faced betrayal and chosen restraint over ruin. And though the scars of the failed treaty remained, the galaxy would never again doubt the strength hidden behind human words. For when humanity speaks of peace, the universe listens, and when humanity falls silent, the universe trembles. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic HFY Sci-Fi tales.